Folks, thank you so much for watching. Today, we're going to take a look at how to find notes on the fretboard of the guitar. And this is something that any beginner should definitely try to wrap their head around as soon as possible. It helps you find bar chords and five chords and also move scales around and things like that. It makes everything mobile. So the ability to find notes on your fretboard is very, very important. And it's not really that hard. I'm going to show you two different ways to approach it today. But the place you have to start is with the musical alphabet. So we're going to take a look at that really quick. If you're looking over here, this is the musical alphabet. Now, one little disclaimer here. There are sharps and flats. Sharps and flats share the same spaces. They are the same notes. It just depends on which direction you're going musically and what key you're in, whether we're going to use sharps or flats. And that's confusing in the beginning. And so here I'm only using sharps, and I chose to use sharps because most of your electronic tuners that you might be using right now, they only show sharps. And so that's the best place to start. The way the musical alphabet works, if you're looking at one note and you go to the very next note in music, that's what we call a half step, okay? And that is equal to traveling one fret on our guitar. So if I go one fret to the very next fret, that is half step in music. Also, one that gets people confused once in a while is the open note to the first fret. That would also be a half step. So if we're looking here, the alphabet is just A through G. There are sharps, except for the B and the E. The B's and E's do not have sharps. Yeah, so just remember that. So as you're going through the alphabet, it's A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp. And when you get here, it actually just cycles back around to A, but it's going to be a whole octave higher. So we're going pitch-wise, we're going a lot higher. Now that we understand that, let's take a look at how this works on the fretboard. And we're gonna approach this two different ways. We're gonna do a manual way, which is kind of starting from the open string and just working our way down the fretboard. And then I'll show you a trick to start memorizing the fretboard. So let's look at the manual way first. We're gonna take a closer look at our guitar here, okay? At the nut. Hopefully by now you already know the names of your strings, okay? Just in case you don't, I'm gonna kind of repeat them here. So the low E string here, that's E, A, D, G, B, and E, okay? Edward, A, dynamite, goodbye, Edward. That's the old acronym that every guitar teacher since the beginning of time has been teaching. There's some other clever ones out there too, but that's the most common one. Anyways, so we're looking at this string, this E here, okay? And we're gonna use this as an example to kind of start finding notes on the fretboard. So I'm going to jump over to our chart here. We know that this is E. So we're looking at our chart here. That puts us here at E. So when I put my finger on the first fret there, when I play the open E, and then if I put my finger down right here, I have traveled a half step in music. So I went from here to F. That is now an F, all right? So, and so it goes. In fact, let's just take a second. This will be a lot simpler. If you just look here, if I'm looking at this is the open note, all right? Then every single note after that is the next fret. So fret, if this is 0, this is gonna be fret 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so it goes, right? So first fret of E is F, second fret is F sharp, third fret is G, G sharp is the fourth fret, and so it goes. So if I'm looking over here, I've got this E, first fret is F, F sharp, G, G sharp. What comes after G sharp in the musical alphabet? That's where it cycles back around. So this is A sharp, and so it goes, right? Now this works on any string. Let's try it actually again on the A string, Edward, 8. So this is the A string here, okay? That puts us, if we're looking at the alphabet, that puts us at the very beginning, right here, right? So as I play through this, I got my open A. As I put my finger on the first fret, that would put us at A sharp, right? And then as I move down to the second fret, that'd be a a B, and then if I just have this memorized, right, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, and so it goes. It's going to work like that for every single string. You just have to know the name of the string, and that's where you would start in the alphabet. So one more example before we move on to the next idea. I'm going to go down and use one of these ones. So this is the B string. Edward ate dynamite, goodbye. This is the B string, okay? So I know that it is the B string, so that starts me here, okay? As I play that open, that's a B. So the very next note is going to be C. I got B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, and so on. Hopefully that makes pretty good sense. It's pretty simple. It's tempting to guess at the notes. And another thing I see students do a lot is they'll just use their ears, and you can do that. You can, if you look here, notes repeat themselves. So if I was playing this, let's do this C here, for example, and I needed to find that somewhere else, I could come up here and just use my ear and find out that this is a C on the G string, this is a C on the B string. They repeat themselves, okay? And it's good to be able to do things by ear like that. But when you're learning songs, and when you're learning how to move chords around and stuff like that, it is very, very beneficial to know how to find the notes on your guitar. So I would encourage you to take this first idea of manually trying to find the notes, and just one by one test yourself. Go and find those notes as much as you can. Do it a couple times a day. A couple weeks, you'll have it down, and it'll be really easy. Now, memorization can make this process a lot faster. All right. So a trick that I like to teach all of my students is how to use milestones. All right. If you look at most guitars, there's a few that don't have these little dots in the fretboard, and Yamaha specifically, I think they don't put one on the third fret of some of their guitars, and so you might just have the 5th fret, the 7th fret, the 9th fret, and the 12th, and so on. So some guitars are a little bit different, but most of them will have the same dots that I have here in this Taylor guitar. And so I use these as what I call milestones, or just mile markers if you want. It's just a couple spots where I can memorize the notes, and it makes my life a little bit easier. Instead of having to go all the way down the fretboard. Let's say, for example, I'm on the E string, the open E string, the low one, and I need to find the note C, okay? Let's just say that's the case. And if I don't have these memorized, I gotta start clear up here. Open, I gotta, okay, well, that's E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. Okay, I gotta work my way up through that. That's a lot of work, all right? If I just had memorized what this note was right here, okay, or this note right here, then it would have been easy for me to say, well, I know this note's C sharp. I can move back here and I can grab this C, right? That's a little bit quicker. It's just a way to work quicker. And eventually you do want to have all the notes memorized, right? But little steps, right? If you start with something small, memorize that, and then keep finding notes. Eventually you'll memorize all of them. So this is what I like to do. I focus on those frets. So I focus on the 3rd fret, where that dot is, the 5th fret, the 7th, and the 9th, okay? This double dot here is an octave, and I don't worry about anything past that to begin with. We're talking about beginner guitar, so we're not playing these notes too much up here. And the double dot, that's an octave, that's a repeat of all the notes, and so that's actually pretty easy. This is open E. If I play the 12th fret, that's an E an octave higher. Anyways, so I'm just gonna focus on 3, 5, 7, and 9, okay? What I'm going to do, I'm going to jump over to the whiteboard here, and actually I'm going to make you a chart, okay? So I'm going to write in 3, 5, 7, and 9, okay? And then I'm going to write over here the E string, because that's what we're going to focus on first, all right? We're actually going to do this for the E string and the A string. So I'll write in both of those actually. I'll go ahead and kind of make a little chart here. Forgive my squiggly lines. doing this freehand. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're just going to kind of sort out what the third fret of the E string is. We're going to use our chart up here and figure this out real quick. And you can do this a couple ways. You could do it manually. You can come here and say, okay, well, I need to find the third fret, right? Third fret of the E string. What note is that? And so I could come up here and say, okay, I'm starting on the E, and grab my guitar and say, well, it's an open E, and then I'd have an F, then an F sharp, and then a G. So that third fret is a G, all right? So I could go ahead and just fill that in. That's a G, all right? But you can also just look at this chart and figure it out pretty quickly. Okay, this is E, that's 0. So 1, 2, 3 is G, 4, 5, the 5th fret is A, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and just write in an A here, okay? If I know that, then this is the 6th fret, and this is the 7th fret, so B is the 7th fret. And as I follow that down, C sharp would be the 9th fret. So go ahead and scribble that in, okay? C sharp. All right, now I can do the same thing working through this on the A string. And so I'm going to go ahead and work my way through this. So I got A, that's 0. 1, 2, 3, that's going to be a C. 4, 5 is D. 6, 7, that's E. And then 8, 9 is going to be F sharp. So I've got C, D, E, and F sharp. All right, so let's go ahead and scribble those in real fast. C, D, E, and F sharp. And voila, just like that, you've got all the notes on these frets, the 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th frets. Now, just a couple things. Why did I only do the E and the A? Eventually, yes, you should know the notes on all of your strings. And you can use this trick for all of the strings. It's a pretty nice little trick to do. But the two most important in beginner guitar I would recommend is the low E string and the A string, sorry. And the reason for that is because most of our root notes for bar chords that we're going to be using as beginners and our open chords are on those two strings. The exception, a couple on the D string, but most of them are on the E and the A string. And so it's good to know the notes on those strings first. It's pretty simple, okay? Now, how to practice this, that's the big thing, okay? What I would tell you to do is to just quiz yourself. So take a minute, look at your chart, right? Like if I'm looking over here at this chart, okay. I've got on the E string, the 3rd fret's G, then A, then B, and then C sharp. Just come over here and say them out loud and play them. So I got, this is the 3rd fret here, G, A, B, C sharp. Go through this a whole bunch of times. G, A, B, C sharp. Then maybe mix them up. A, C sharp, G, A, B, right? C sharp, okay? And then as you get really comfortable with that, start adding the notes in between, right? For example, if I'm sitting here playing and I'm playing an A, now I need an A sharp. Okay, that's right there. I need a G sharp. I know the 3rd fret's G, so G sharp's going to be right here. What if I wanted to do a flat, which we're not talking a lot about flats, but I can still do them. And so let's say I wanted a B flat. Okay, well, I know this is B. B, our flats would just be going that way instead of this way. And so here's a B, B flat. Very easy, all right? So I can work between those notes and get a little bit faster at finding them on my fretboard. One last thing that I would encourage you to do, this is sort of like level 2 in finding notes on the guitar. And that is what I call crossing over. As you're practicing, once you've gotten to where you know these notes on the E string and on the A string, start practicing crossing over between them, because knowing where the notes are adjacent is very, very helpful. So for example, I know this is a G, okay? Well, if I look at the chart here, my G's here, directly below it on the A string is a C. All right, that's pretty useful to know. So I can be playing this G, and I know that C is right there. I know I could also find C sharp right here and go back, and there's a C, so I could play G to C there, but it's quicker to play it there for sure, right? Those are just a couple examples of how you can practice it, all right? And that is sort of the key thing. The way you get good at finding notes or anything musically is to practice. If this was helpful, please do take the time to like and subscribe. That helps me build a following a little bit better. I am a music teacher and I'm trying to make a living doing this, so I really appreciate that. Also, if you're interested in lessons, you can go on over to guitutor.com and you can contact me and get signed up for in-person lessons. Just so you know, the experience you just had here in this video is exactly the experience you would have if you were doing online lessons with me. Anyways, yeah, so there you go. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.